Alba, ¿no? Ahí el iPad. So welcome to the colloquium. This is a little bit of an unusual colloquium, not only because it's a holiday, but also because this is about a workshop that finishes today. The title of the workshop is Increasing Diversity and Inclusion in Science. And mainly what we want to talk about is a little bit about the history of these workshops and the main conclusions that we came up with, which are actually like an ongoing work. So the organizers of this workshop are Lilia, she's going to talk from Mexico here, from Puebla. Alba, she's from Colombia. Zelia, she left. She's from Juiz de Fora. Leslie from the University of Chile, and Denise also from Chile. And it's the first time that we saw each other in person because all the other activities with them we organized online, yeah. Anyway, and this is me. I am a professor at the University of Buenos Aires and researcher of CONICET in Argentina. And besides us, Zelia was here until noon. There were other people involved with this workshop. Well, we created this Vitral Ciencia. It's a persona, online persona would be, to try to interweave knowledge across generations and disciplines. And well, other people involved with the organization of the workshop have been Andrea Vera from Chile as well, Valparaíso, and Alejandra Vázquez from Santiago, from Chile. Most of us, we are physicists, but Leslie, she's a mathematician, and Andrea is also a mathematician, and Alejandra is a biologist working in ecology. And then Marcia Barbosa, that I guess you all know. She's the person that got me involved into women in science, basically, Marcia. But she's always lately very busy, so she didn't participate in the latest stages of the organization. I want to thank, first of all, ICTP for supporting this activity, the funding, but also I want to mention the other two agencies that gave us some funds, the International Science Council and the International Union of Pure and Applied Physics. So before I give the floor to Lilia, let me tell you, well, we've been organizing this type of workshops since 2014 with Lilia and Alba. And let me tell you a little bit about the aims. It's several aims that are interrelated. One of them is to give some tools to early career scientists and physics and science students, some tools to advance with their careers, but we don't want to continue performing in the stereotypical way of advancing with your career. We try to tailor in a new perspective, particularly a gender perspective, to be more inclusive. Then to share experiences across generations. We always have talks by more senior people and younger people, and across generations and disciplines. And then we also want to discuss the difficulties that members of the scientific community from underrepresented groups face when they try to advance with their careers, and to try to discuss some strategies or policies that can be implemented. And that's what I'm going to talk about later. So we will share some of the themes that came up during this workshop and what ideas also arose. What we are after is to make the practice of science, research institutions more inclusive and also more humane. So with this, I leave the floor to Lilia. You should. Oh, it's there. I don't see the thing. I have no idea because this is a Windows thing. I think I don't know. This is.
So thank you very much to the organizer. Okay, thank you. Okay. So, well, I also want to thank to the ICTP. Thank you very much for accepting again the this workshop. And I will try to, this one? And I'm going to share with you briefly the journey we have gone through. And well, that's why I am saying once upon a time. So as Silvina has mentioned before, the conference, the International Union of Physics and Applied Physics, organized a conference in Paris in March 2002. And more than 60 countries were there. Okay. And now you can see here Marcia. I don't know where Silvina is. I don't know what. Angela Camacho, myself, and you? Karen Holberg. Well, I will go. So one of these, we have a very short time, that's why I'm going to skip a lot of details on this. But one of the activities of this conference, besides discussing a lot of topics regarding gender, one of the aims was to create networks to collaborate. So they organize regional meetings, and here you have the Latin American meetings. Again, Marcia, Solange Cavalcante, something like that. Elisa Bayo, here's Ana Maria Cheto from Mexico, Liliana Alvarez, she's also Brazilian, I don't remember her name. Marilia, yes. Silvina, myself, Karen Halber, Angela Camacho from Colombia. So then we met, Silvina and I met there, and we say, hello, how are you, la, la, la. And then, as she also mentioned before, the Brazilian team was so enthusiastic about organizing the conference in Brazil, or the next conference in Brazil, so they, to me, it seems to me that they trying to do a rehearsal, organizing this conference, the Ciencia Mujer 2004 in Rio de Janeiro, and here I am. You were not there. Yeah, you were? Okay. So you were here, and then I want to tell you this, and I'm going to talk in Spanish because it's the way it was. At some moment I was with Marcia, and I approached Marcia, and I told her, so what is the idea behind this conference? Are you planning to organize another one? When, where? And she told me, estábamos esperando que nuestras amigas mexicanas hablaran. Entonces, okay, so then, okay, yes, we want to organize the conference, the next conference here. So we have the one in Mexico, 2006, and here I was the chair over here, and then Mayra, I have the pleasure to meet Mayra, and then that's why she's joined this great effort. Yeah, con eso. Yeah, like this. Okay, so what about the workshop? So in the second conference, some countries were invited to present the results, the progress of all the proposals we were talking about in the previous conference. So even in the resolutions, the first conference, we were talking about organizing workshops on professional skills, because it was mentioned that women were lacking in this kind of skills, and it was really a great disadvantage. So it was important to provide all these skills in order to be competitive and not and try to close the gap in this kind of skills. So then later on, some workshops were organized during this conference at Seoul in 2008. But what we found is that there are regional differences like this. For example, some of these workshops were given by persons, colleagues from the first developed countries. So they were talking about another context completely different. So we thought that it was very important to talk about our reality, the things that we were concerned about our career. So one of the good thing about this is that the USA team presented results, but they were focusing on leadership. And I was so shocked when I saw how much money they were spending on that. You can see almost $200,000 per year. Yes, they have this fund. And I thought, my goodness, what can I do in Mexico? So, I forgot. So we tried that. We were talking about this among some caipirinhas, by the way. We were talking about how to organize this conference, because the first thing we were thinking about, we don't even have money to do science. How can we get money to support women? So our friends from Puerto Rico, here is Luz Maria, and then Idalia, managed to get some funding. Already Silvina mentioned this, from this Pan American School of Studies, yes, Institute. So because it was not about gender, but then we talk about nanobio. And during one of the sessions, this one on networking, we were trying to start some collaborations, multidisciplinary collaborations, because there were not only physicists, there were from several disciplines. But then we realized, because people started talking about different things, the difficulties they were as students finding through their careers and things like that. So that really enhanced our initial purpose to implement this kind of workshops in the region. So, okay. So there are some other workshops. The one in ICTP in Italy, and they also organized one in Africa. So we tried to implement that tropical version, our own tropical version. And I won't talk about this because this is, Silvina already mentioned, it's Spanish, but then at the beginning, this was the purpose of covering all these topics. And as Silvina mentioned before, it has been evolved. Now we are talking about another issues. Time is, life is changing. We are now living in another context. Still some problems remain, but there are new issues that we didn't, at that time, thought about it. So sometimes they said you are at the wrong time, at the wrong place, right? But here, we were lucky because one of our colleagues was at the right time, at the right place. So I thought with her, and I talked with her, and she was senior scientist working in our national agency in a very, very important position, and I talked with her about the possibility of organizing this kind of workshops, and she said, yes, go ahead, but not only for physicists, you have to address some other disciplines. So that's why we started organizing the first one in Puebla, Mexico, my own country. Yes, here is the poster, and you will see here Alba, myself, Mayra is over here. I don't know why she wanted to go out there. And Silvina is around here. I don't know exactly. So as you can see, we have the poster sessions. At that time, we have found with these little boxes that were given by some of the speakers, and then discussions and a lot of activities. I'm going to go fast to this. And also, it was very important that after this workshop ended, the girls and Mayra approached to me and said, what about this? What are your plans? What are your plans for this conference, these workshops? And I said, well, we will wait for our Latin American friends to see if they get the funds, and then we will organize the next one somewhere else. And I said, no. let's do it every year here in Mexico. And that's, we did it. You see the different cities, and it has ended because of the pandemic and some changes in the policy in Mexico. Well, so the next one took place, in Argentina. You can see here, and I was so happy of having this workshop in this room. And also, you see the discussions, the conferences, and the group photo. And we always have fun. You see, we were walking in the streets and found this skeleton, and they said, let's have a picture with the doctor. Okay, and have this, okay. So the conference on global approach took place in Colombia, and we have this meeting with from also people coming from different disciplines. Norma is the social scientist, and then Andrea and Alejandra showed up and joined our groups. And then we have the workshop in Colombia. You see all this, again, we have these kind of activities. Then in Peru, in Lima, and for the first time here in Sao Paulo, and Marcia was here. That time we were there, she was here. And then the pandemic came and changed a little bit the situation, because the next workshop was going to take place in Chile, but we have to organize a virtual conversatorios, round tables with different perspectives. You can see they were virtual. So we managed to get again some funds and organized one in Honduras last year, yeah. Because of the pandemic, it still was virtual, you can see here, but it was possible to organize, and again, now we are here in Sao Paulo, very happy of being here, you can see there. And I just want to mention that sometimes I feel like a mission. You see, spreading the word, trying to convince the people, make them think about some situation. I don't try to convince them like them, but just to share all our experience, all this thought about the situation, the gaps, different gaps, and we were thinking about gender gaps, but now we have found that there are many gaps in science, so we have to work on them. So we have published some results, like as you see in the proceedings of the conferences, Women in Physics, and then we have also a chapter in the book that we have here, and I don't know what is next, but I'm sure we are going to do something else. And finally, I want to also mention the group we are working this. The local organizers are very, very important, because you see, it's not easy going to a country where we don't know exactly the context, the culture, and we have to be very, very careful about how to organize the conference. So now we are waiting for the next one. So the next one goes to. So every suggestion, every intention is the most welcome. Okay. Thank you very much.
Ahí vamos. Yo no veo el... ¿Me ayudas con el mouse, que no lo veo? No veo el mouse, ¿dónde está acá? Ahí está, lo vi. Sí, no. Ahí está. ¿Cómo? Tengo ahora que compartilhar o meu. Yo lo digo.
É no mesmo.
É o mesmo. Ok, aqui.
Isso.
E aqui, dois.
Agora aqui.
Ok.
Agora
Ok.
posso aqui?
Sim, próximo. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to move on. At the end, maybe the book. Okay. So let me give you a little bit of some questions that we take into consideration when discussing all these gender and diversity issues. For example, why there are so few... Oh, this is for me. Thank you.
Excuse me.
okay? Why there are so few women or maybe people from underrepresented groups in STEM, so trying to come up with ideas to recruit people from the underrepresented groups into STEM. Then is it because they don't like the contents, or is it because there are some things about the practice of the discipline that is not attractive, or is it because of biases in the selection of careers? Why does the fraction of women, this is something I prepared a while ago, so it's mostly on women, decrease with the hierarchy along the career? What difficulties are these people from underrepresented groups facing when they try to advance? What can be done to improve the situation? How to evaluate and monitor the situation? That's very complicated to monitor and see the impact of the policies. And then there is a very important issue, which is gender violence. How can we improve the environment, the workplace environment? And so we have all these aspects: recruitment, retainment, solving problems related to promotion and recognition, and how to make this agenda now, if you want to, in the case of gender, if you want to have some affirmative actions when gender is self-perceived and is chosen by people before, when the binary classification, it was, I think, easier to implement affirmative actions. How should we change them to account for these changes, social changes? And then, well, you can have different ways to try to produce changes. One of them is what I call top-down, which is the institutions start some policies and try to change the environment, and the others are bottom-up, and this workshop is bottom-up, is trying to discuss and come up with ideas. So let me talk about a little bit about some of the themes that were repeatedly mentioned here during these 2 days, and today in the morning a little bit. One is the lack of visibility of scientists from underrepresented groups. And this is mostly due to bias, because it's not necessarily because their contributions are not valuable. And now, this changes every now and then. It was interesting, the talk by Sonia yesterday, that she was telling that Katemari Rosa, who was a participant of the previous version of the workshop here in Sao Paulo, she had written a book on Black scientists in Brazil, Black women scientists, and when asked for a support to get the book printed, and she didn't get any support until George Floyd was killed in the US, and the issue of Black people became fancy or trendy or whatever, and so she was called by, I think it was Capis or something like that, asking, bring me the book that I'm going to print it. So sometimes we, in our countries here, we follow trends that come from the global north, and maybe we should establish our own agenda to try to advance with these issues. Then increasing the visibility is it's not only good for the people that are not visible, because it's very important to advance with your careers, to have, other people look at your contributions, acknowledge your contributions, cite them if it's papers, things like that. But it's also very important for the role models that those people can play. In particular, I've done a little bit of a study in my school, and PhD students in math, women PhD students, tend to choose women advisors more frequently than men do. So role models are very important for the advancement of people from underrepresented groups. And then now, today we had this discussion about artificial intelligence, and that there are lots of developments that are based on data analysis, and data on many occasions is what's more frequent on the web. And so if you don't cite, you don't portray the contributions of the diverse pool of people, of minorities, then that information doesn't feed these automatic systems, and so they keep on producing biases, and those people are going to be underrepresented, and the technologies that are developed will be unfit in many cases. In particular, for example, in medicine, there have been some examples. There is a woman from Stanford, Londa Schibinger, that has a very nice site called Gendered Innovations with a lot of examples of technologies that were developed without taking into consideration sex or gender. And so then they were not good for the people of sex or genders that were not considered. And one of them is medicine for the heart that was very bad for women. The doses was bad. And then, of course, sexual harassment and abuse. That's something that always arises. And that's something that came up from a discussion group that was coordinated by Denise. And so they came up with some ideas of what could be done. For example, incorporating into teaching evaluations. In the evaluations, a question related to whether the respondents have experienced any situation of harassment, abuse, or discrimination. Show and share the policies that each university has, because some countries have protocols on how to deal with these issues, and that's very good. In particular, let me tell you, Denise, that in 2017, we started a website with a list of initiatives all across Latin America and also from other places. I am the person, the web manager of that website. I think the last post is from 2 years ago or something like that. So it's very hard to keep up to date those sites with information, with links. We have to keep on sharing, but it's very, very hard. I mean, it's a full-time job to have that. And also there was a project that I was involved with, funded by the International Science Council. One of the tasks of that project was to produce a database of good practice, and it was also very hard to keep the maintenance of that. And then produce a documentary. I'm sorry that with that thingy, you cannot read the bottom of this. But anyway, then something else, having a written record like proceedings. Well, that's very complicated. I'm not going to mention it either. Anyway, then inclusive spaces, and in scientific and academic institutions, there was a lot of mentioning here to daycare, how important it is not only for professors, faculty, but also for students to have some sort of support for daycare. Not PhD students that usually have a scholarship to do their PhDs, but also undergraduates. Then career interruptions. That's another thing that affects women and people from underrepresented groups more frequently than it does to other people. Like, for example, when you have a kid. We've learned here that in some countries, if you don't follow your career regularly, then you are penalized and you have to pay some money to come back to your career. And in other places, you can pause it, but Sandy was telling that when she went and said, I want my career to be paused because she had a kid, and they thought, well, she's not going to come back because of a prejudice of the people that were analyzing her application for this pause. And so then she had these 0 grades, apparently, that semester, and that lowered the average of her grades. So those things about career interruptions, that's something that's very important. And many countries have special lines of funding for women to come back to their careers, particularly when they are already doing research after PhD, and maybe they want to stop for a while. And so they give a grant for them to come back to their scientific career, pursue their research, and then reach a position so as to be able to apply for a permanent job or something like that. Anyway, language, that's another barrier we found. English is a barrier, and we heard also a very interesting description about people that were sent from Brazil to see institutions in the first world, in the global north, and people from Harvard asked here, why aren't you sending more black people? And here they responded because they don't pass the English exam, or they don't know, they are not fluent enough in English. And they said, oh, you can send them, maybe we can arrange that they can be sent earlier, like six months before or something like that, so that they get more comfortable with English, and then they can profit from the exchange. So language is very important, and it's not something that people here get for free. Then institutional policies. Sometimes what happens, institutions put in place a policy, but then in the microenvironment of the research groups or smaller research institutions, they don't follow those policies because there are local situations of power. And when there are very few people involved, those that feel that are not being mistreated and that those policies are not followed, they are very afraid of coming up and say, well, this is not good, I'm going to file a complaint or something, because it's small groups where few people have a lot of power. And so there is something that institutions have to do to monitor this. And with this, I finish, and I give the floor to Alba to talk about some opportunities for students, and then we open the floor for discussion.
Thank you, Silvina. I just want to start. Oh, yeah. This is a good practice.
What?
Someone put it automatically. So I want to start my intervention asking a question to all of you. This is going to be an exercise. Please make sure you have a human next to you, either right or left, in front of, at the back. And talk to that person and just mention one female scientist that has been a role model for you, and one male scientist. And just give one word or a short description. Let's do this exercise quickly. Yeah, I will do it too. You can work together. I will see. One or two? One female scientist and one male scientist. Yeah? That is a role model for you. ¿Quién te digo? Ruby Casallas, que es una ingeniera de computación que ahora está moviendo lo que es un poco la coding for girls and for citizens. ¿De men? Feynman. Entonces me ocurre ese. So, are we done with the exercise? I'm going to ask Nathan and Royale to give us their input.
Okay. So a person I admire is a Brazilian astrophysicist called Beatriz Barbuí. Do you know her? Yeah. She won the L'Oreal. She's amazing, yeah. And
Did you know her? Could you write the name?
yes.
Maybe where from the stage here? Over here. Perfect.
Beatriz Barbuí.
From
She's from the Institute of Astronomy and Astrophysics Astronomy and Astrophysics from the University of São Paulo.
Do you want somebody that's alive that I interacted with, or it doesn't matter? Or so Madame Curie is a role model for me. So okay. You want me to write? I can write Madame Curie, but I've never interacted with her. Okay. I don't know her. Okay, that's for Rogério. Yeah, I don't know her maiden name. It's Polish, right? But I don't know. Okay. So somebody who I interacted with is Carmen Nunez, but she wasn't a role model. She's just somebody I interacted. Okay. Do you know how to spell it?
Thank you. Who else want to give me an answer? Who else wants to participate? Hopefully they are alive. They're still alive. Yeah.
Lo voy a decir en español. En mi caso, Mariana Costa para mí es un referente, es una peruana que trabaja cortando la brecha de género. Ha sido considerada una de las mujeres más influyentes en el mundo, ha sido premiada también por Mark Zuckerberg. Ella ha desarrollado Laboratoria, no sé si alguno lo ha escuchado, y se trata de capacitar a mujeres de escasos recursos en tecnología. Pasan 8 meses, cerca de 8 meses capacitándolas, consiguen un puesto, las consiguen puestos de trabajo y personas o mujeres de escasos recursos que no se imaginaban trabajar en tecnología, consiguen este puesto de trabajo y pues mejora su calidad de vida.
Ana María Cheto, Physics, Nobel Prize, Mexican.
So, another one? Mariana Costa. ¿Y puedes escribir el nombre? Lilia, profe Lilia. Eso. Listo. Yeah, go for it. Dos.
Can be two women.
Listo, una ñapa. Yeah. Yeah.
Márcia Barbosa,
Márcia Barbosa
and Sônia Guimarães.
Ah, ¿las puedes escribir? Sí. Márcia Barbosa. ¿Y por qué? Could you describe them? Just short description.
Because
I don't know, Marcia.
Because she is a great female scientist. Her work is very good, very excellent, and she also is engaged in gender issues. So she has been always a role model for me.
Yeah. 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 The last one.
Cecilia Cabeza, que es uruguaya, y me mostró las inequidades de género y gracias a ella creo que entendí qué cosas pasaban y que ella se tuvo que bancar en toda su carrera todos los machismos y lo pasó muy sola, así que creo que es un role model.
So this exercise has been in our meetings for a long time. At the beginning, there were not too many names on the list. But now I'm really happy that names come to your minds quickly. And this is the reason why we organize this type of activities. And I'm going to give you a scientific fact that why it's important that we work together with these workshops. Giving, volunteering, and helping each other releases oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine. These neurotransmitters are essential to boost our happy, nerdy, active mood and modulate or block cortisol, which could reduce stress. We need to be less stressed when we work in science. So the last part is on me, and it's going to be oportunidades or opportunities. I'm an engineer and I'm a physicist, and it has been really hard to navigate both disciplines. If I go into the physics side, I have to neglect that I'm an engineer, and if I go into the other side, I have to neglect my other degree. So I don't understand why we cannot work together, and I'm going to mention a list of different funding, fellowships, and scholarship sources that could boost our neurotransmitters. Because we need to work together, engineering and physicists. So this is the IEEE network. This is the largest association, and they have undergraduate student scholarships, and they have awards and recognitions They also have a program for young professionals, which is really important for us. You know, when we start our career, we need some specific funding to balance private and professional lives. And even for senior careers, they have some funding for people who can, they need to change the direction of their career. So you can have funding for that. And the other one is we organize every year the summer school in the Latin American region. The region is called Region 9. And here is a call for action that I want to mention in this colloquium, sustainable technology by design. Science and technology has to work on sustainability. They could be aligned to the ODS, the objectives of development sustainability. So specific programs are targeting that we work together. So we are here because everyone is smart. You have got all the individual grades and awards, but to survive as a community, we have to work together. And this is the message I want to give you here. And sustainability is part of that. For all of you who are looking for a postdoc or a fellowship, in your CV, you have to list outreach activities. You have to list sometimes activities that you are involved helping others in their careers or helping others in their frustrating lives or heartbroken stages. So this is important in science and engineering. And the other one is the oportunidades educativas de la OEA, que son becas que se tienen en toda la región latinoamericana. So it's a program that I want you to look at. Right now, you are so lucky because Horizon 2020 and all the programs of Europe are looking at Latin America. We have been the focus for the energy and digital transition. There's going to be money coming into our countries for technology-based companies, and all of you might want to create your company, but you would also like to work for those companies. So there is a program, and the webinar is going to be on the 21st of November for all the exchange possibilities with all the European Union countries. So keep that in mind. The link is going to be there, and we are going to share this presentation with all of you. Next one is Apogee Bio. This is a great program. It's a program supported by the European Commission for specific proposals targeting experienced researchers with possibilities to be in an industry or in academia in the European Union. So keep that in mind too. It's another great opportunity. And this one is the Swiss National Science Foundation with the foundation of with the FASPIPS. This is for exchanging program for junior and senior researchers, even for undergraduates who are at the final stage of their thesis, that could be useful for them. I also include in this presentation all the links, so you can search for the specific requests of the program. So we have Ernest March grants. I don't know if any of you know him. Have you heard about him? Nathan, you are the most knowledgeable person here.
Sorry, the only mark I know is the one about space-time, but I don't know if that's...
He was a physicist, and in his memory, they created this program. It's open to all developing countries, so we can apply for fellowship targeting research grants. This is another one from Austria. That's really great. And of course, my colleagues advised me to include the American Institute of Physics that grants in aid. This is International Research Travel Program to support research in the history of the physical sciences. It's important that we know the history, because otherwise you think that you are the only one and you are the smartest one, but you never recognize that there were other humans who have built the knowledge that you are exploiting right now. Most recipients are PhD candidates in the history of science, but recipients also include students and professionals in many disciplines, including economics, educators, and science writers. And this is important because in our workshop, we don't only have scientists. We have people who are communicators, who are people who are influencers. So this is a great opportunity for all of them. And imagine you, when you are so specialized, talking to 2,000 people, getting the attention of these people requires some skills and capacity, communication capacity, you know? Every time I see an influencer, and I have worked with many of them, I'm really amazed of how many eyes they have on their communication. The other one is the EU PAP, Grants for Women in Physics in Developing Countries. And maybe, Silvina, you want to add something here?
Well, this is about $700 US dollars that are given to go to schools or workshops. It's for women from developing countries, particularly at early stages of their careers. That's focused for that. The call is usually open in February, and every year, with the exception of the years where there are the international conferences on women in physics.
Thank you. There is another one that I will strongly recommend it to you. Austria has the program, United States has a similar program, and Canada has the same program. It's called Emerging Leaders in the Americas program. They select a specific topic like artificial intelligence or quantum computing, and they bring people from all over the world to expose them to the ecosystem in each country. So it's a good way of having connections, building a network, a global network. This program is amazing. I have participated in 2 of those. Even Germany has one. I participated twice in the nanotechnology mission representing Colombia. Will strongly recommend that when you need specific consumables for your research, you have to rely on a global network. And this is the message I wanted to leave you with. Sometimes everything is difficult, and as an engineer, I have to communicate using symbols. Here is an inverter, so anytime that you have a no as an answer, please invert it, and it's an on. You are setting up a new process in your life. And the last quote, the only way to deal with an unfree world is to become so absolutely free that your very existence is an act of rebellion. Thank you so much. Albert Camus.
Thank you. Thank you, Alba, for this very interesting description and inspiring words. And so the last message, I think, is that we all need to contribute. This is not something of the people that belong to the underrepresented groups. It's of everybody to make, as I told you, the scientific practice, research in science, more inclusive and humane. So thank you all. And with this, we are going to leave a book for ICTP. And I don't know if you want to comment, tell something about the experience of these days, something that we forgot to mention that you think it's important. And
en cualquier idioma.
Ahí.
Incluso matemáticas o física, está el tablero.
Thank you very much. I will switch to Portuguese. Bom, eu quero agradecer, dizer que eu estou muito feliz de ter vindo aqui a esse evento. Foi a primeira vez que eu participei de um evento para falar sobre gênero na ciência, e isso me deixa mesmo, enfim, muito grata. Fico muito feliz de ver as pessoas mais jovens, assim, né, tão antenadas, assim, tão mais à frente do que eu era nessa altura, e fico muito agradecida, muito feliz também de encontrar vocês aqui que já estão trabalhando, né, há algum tempo com essa temática tão importante para a gente. Então, eu queria mesmo só, enfim, agradecer a todas vocês. Eu pude aprender bastante nesses dias e foi uma ótima experiência. Obrigada.
Thank you.
Someone else?
Rogério.
Roger.
Yes.
From you. What do you guys recommend to improve the atmosphere and to improve women in STEM?
Do you want me to talk first? Or Oh. Well, I think that one of the most important things is to try to get everybody involved. and go through dialogue. When we started this with Lilia, with these workshops on professional skills, we were thinking, oh, we are going to empower women. But then we realized we didn't want to repeat that exercise of power that is the patriarchal way of handling issues. We like a more collective way of advancing, of doing research. We have to review the ways in which we evaluate science too, because science is more collaborative, particularly high energy is super collaborative. And so the usual way of evaluating is not very good. It's not well fitted for that type of activity. And we should try to promote more collaborations, interdisciplinary collaborations, also transdisciplinary collaborations, because the co-creation of knowledge with people without scientific background is also very important. So the policies need to try to advance along those lines. And of course, it's very important to try to monitor the impact of policies, because the database that we came up with within the Gender Gap in Science project, we realized that there were lots of initiatives and almost none with evaluating the impact, which is very difficult. I heard a proposal in that regard for education. It's where you have a very large population on which you apply the policy, that you should have a control group. It's like when you do an experiment in biology. So you have similar populations, and in one of them you implement the policy, and in the other you don't, simultaneously, because the external influence also can change. I mean, it's a social, societies are influenced by their internal activities, but also by what happens outside. And so if there is a war, if there is a pandemic, changes, and maybe the impact, what's the relative impact of that external effect compared to the policy that you try to change? So that's the way in which this would be, you could, I don't know, analyze the impact. And then regarding the evaluation, there is also multidimensional evaluation, which is very hard. And it's more subjective, I understand, because, I mean, we know that we can order numbers along the real line, but when we go multidimensional, we don't have an order. But it's important that we incorporate multiple dimensions when deciding on the promotion and the advancement. And I am also very much in favor of affirmative actions to change the atmosphere, because if not, because the scientific community keeps on evaluating itself and reproducing its own ways of doing things, unless you bring something that is very disruptive. And that you can only do with some affirmative actions. So that's my
Can I add
ideas.
something else?
But there was someone there.
Can I add something quickly? I think it's important that these kind of workshops and schools will be periodically developed. This is my recommendation, and we will be delighted to have this annually or every 2 years. And why? Why is this important? Culture is part of science. Human factor is part of science. And humans change from time to time. Even though with this conflict that is going on, we are very negative about what is happening with technology and science, but I think it's important that we listen what means to be a physicist or chemistry or biology. In 2024, 2025, the challenges changes with the time, especially after the pandemic and all this uncertainty that Heisenberg teaches how to deal with. So I think it's important that we have this meeting. And if you agree, please clap or make a noise. So let's go for the other comment.
Hola, mi nombre es Brenda y bueno, yo quiero agradecer mucho al comité organizador. Es la primera vez que acudo a un evento de estos y realmente me voy muy motivada por este tipo de eventos. Hay cosas que ignoraba completamente y escuchar a los pequeños grupos, retroalimentarnos, me deja con ganas de seguir escuchando y creo que nos faltó tiempo, ¿no? Me dejan con ganas de más. Gracias.
¿De dónde venías?
México.
Bien. Anyone else?
Me dicen aqui em espanhol, pero não vou falar em português. Eu vou falar em português porque vou falar aí para o Rogério. Eu acho que as suggestions estavam nos slides que ela mostrou, né? Tem um monte de suggestions. E uma questão seria, bom, tentar colocar o seminário sobre diversidade num dia que não seja feriado. E também se olhar como instituição de elite dentro da física do Brasil, como vocês estão da diversidade. Né? São os alunos, são seus alunos. Né? Eu vi lá no painel os professores que tem, a Sandra vai se aposentar. Onde vai ficar a diversidade aqui quando a Sandra se aposentar? Vocês têm ações? Né? Affirmative action. Então, se olhe no espelho um pouquinho e chame mais aqui a gente para te ajudar.
Tem um problema que tem que ser resolvido, mas o problema é difícil de resolver. Por quê? Porque nós já fizemos ofertas para mulheres que conseguiram emprego no exterior. Temos um que está chegando agora, a Anne Misser, que acabamos de contratar em uma posição temporária. Então, não é que não tem esforço, é que você tem que reconhecer que quando você é no nível que é mais competitivo, as outras instituições pegam. Então, eles têm ofertas no exterior. Então, é complicado. Não é fácil. Não, eu concordo com você.
Há referências e, por isso, há argumentos a favor da diversidade.
Tem um problema a ser resolvido. Eu concordo. Tá bom, vamos ter mais 2 dias, quinta e sexta, para discutir mais sobre isso, mas tem problemas. Não é só a nossa instituição, mas estou falando que não é fácil. Não é só fazer uma oferta, porque já, como que ele falou, já tem 3 ou 4 mulheres que fizemos oferta, que eles vieram aqui e conseguiram... Sim.
As mulheres estão em demanda, é isso que eu quero dizer.
Tem um problema que eu vou comentar aqui, vamos discutir quinta e sexta, que é outro problema, que é essa coisa racial. Que no Brasil é muito... A questão racial, que no momento é muito recente aqui. Mas, por exemplo, essa pergunta do Harvard, a resposta é que, nesse momento, a questão racial não é tratada no Brasil, no sentido que todo mundo sabe quem é mulher, quem é homem. Mas é muito difícil nem saber a cor da pessoa quando ele aplica para uma posição aqui. Então, Harvard está desesperado para pegar pessoas que não é só Harvard, as instituições no exterior, porque eles têm também problemas, mas no Brasil esse é muito recente. Então, esse é o problema que...
We did discuss that quite a bit. We had Sonia Guimarães, the first black woman PhD in physics from Brazil. We had Cindy. She's a physicist, also single mother, all the difficulties she had to face. Then today we had Kalyani. She also is very active on social networks. We had Zelia among the organizers. And today Zelia gave a very emotional speech because we were running out of time and I was trying to cut what Kalyani was saying, and so we were going, I don't know. And she gave a very emotional speech about the black women shouldn't be silenced, and how the network that they have, they try to promote one another, because Zelia is the person who helped us get in touch with all these other women. She knew those people, we didn't. And well, that's okay, but I mean, and one thing that I mentioned, English is a problem. And even Zelia was saying that maybe we shouldn't be using English because it's a colonial or colonized kind of behavior or something. But anyway, I think that people should be, I don't know, helped to be more fluent in English, because that's the way in which you can relate to all the world right now. And that's an important thing.
English now, people learn from internet. So although it was a problem, I think the problem, as I mentioned, in Brazil... sorry.
Yeah, yeah, now. Es que no se escucha.
So obviously, when I came to Brazil 30 years ago. 30 years ago, no student spoke English. Now, 50% of the students speak English as well as I do. Obviously, it's not 100%, but it's much better than it was before. But I think the problem is that in Brazil, if you are black, which means negro or pardo, preto, you don't receive almost any support. I mean, so different from other, yeah, so at least at the moment.
Yeah, I just want to mention the efforts of some scientific societies in some countries, which I think is important. So the Brazilian Physical Society, for instance, has a committee dedicated to issues of justice, equality, diversity, and inclusion. And so this is really important because they can also get in touch with the community and try to make recommendations. So I think this is important in scientific societies as well in different countries.
So I think we should be closing.
¿Algún otro comentario?
Over there.
Ah, bien, Ecuador, súper.
The triplet from Ecuador.
Uruguay está muy callado, pero bueno.
Two sisters. He's the only.
Hola, es más una pregunta. ¿Han pensado en realizar este evento en Ecuador, tal vez?
Sí. Should I answer in Spanish or pensamos organizar con una física? Tenemos una física en Silvana que estaba con Universidad de San Francisco en Quito era, ¿no? Que tal vez iba a organizar. Pero entonces, si ustedes quieren, ¿ustedes están en Quito o en...?
Es que Ricardo y yo somos de una universidad científica, especialmente en ciencias en Ecuador. Ajá, Yachay. Ajá. Y nos ayudaría muchísimo este tipo de eventos allá porque hay una segregación durísima. Entonces,
I was planning to retire, organizing this. So, if you want to, I fully support.
sí, de hecho, quien nos propuso a mí y a Ricardo fue un profesor de física, porque está muy preocupado de que no hay chicas ahí. No tenemos chicas en la carrera. Y a todos nos preocupa eso. No está bien.
Perfecto. Great. Okay. Sí.
Okay. ¿Quién levanta la
And
mano
I
por
think
acá?
then we should go to, we should go to the coffee break, I think. Because if not, Lorena, we've already pushed her. Muy corta. Muy corta.
Bien, gracias más bien a cada uno de ustedes por este espacio, que entiendo que originalmente cuando lo iniciaron estaba pensado en visibilizar o empoderar a más mujeres en torno a física y ahora es multidisciplinario. Y justo mi reflexión más que pregunta es que se genere estos nodos o redes en Latinoamérica, incorporando también a otras disciplinas para que esto se difunda, porque este tipo de espacios es indistintamente del…
No, lo tenemos con todas las áreas de STEM. Lo que no tenemos tenemos social sciences, pero principalmente STEM, matemática, física, biología, geología, historia de la ciencia. Tenemos esa red.
Sí.
Y yo diría que we should close because we've already moved Lorena to 3:30 and we have to go to the coffee break.
De acuerdo.
So, thanks a lot.
En 2 años, el congreso que organiza la red donde yo trabajo, organiza el Congreso de Ciencia, Tecnología y Género en Uruguay, que trabaja estos temáticas.
Very nice. Okay, so I think with this we adjourn.